did this? He wanted the people of Israel to choose. They were kind of going back and forth, a lot of them. Well, we'll worship Yahweh. Well, we'll worship Baal. He said, no, you guys, you got to choose. So here was the contest that he set up. They had space for 2 altars. And each side, if you will, was supposed to create an offering, but not light it. It was to be a burnt offering, but the God who was really God, that's the God who would light the offering. So the priests of Baal went first, and they put out the wood, and there were 2 bulls. They took the bull, chose one, and they slaughtered the bull and put the parts there. And then they were ready for Baal to send down fire from the heavens. And so they yelled and they shouted, and nothing happened. And they yelled and they shouted some more, and they're dancing around, and pretty soon Elijah starts taunting them and saying, oh yeah, well maybe he's on vacation, or maybe he's in the loo relieving himself. Well, I didn't say that, but that's the Jeff Bennett amplified version. And then they start cutting themselves, and so they're bleeding, and still nothing happens. So finally Elijah calls time, and then Elijah repairs the altar of the Lord, and he puts the wood down, and he puts the parts of the other bull on there, and then he takes water. He instructs for water to become poured over everything, over the wood, over the animal offering. And he calls on the name of the Lord, and whoosh, fire comes down from heaven and consumes the bull and all the wood, and even the water that had overflown and gone into this trench around the altar. It's all gone. And an incredible victory. And then he puts the prophets of Baal to death by the sword. So you have this huge display of the power of God. And it's amazing to me what happens next. Jezebel, who is the wife of King Ahab, king of Israel. Jezebel is not, we met her in week 1 of the series, she is not a God follower. She follows the Baals. And she threatens Elijah's life. And he is so frightened. Well, here, let's listen to what happens. We're at 1 Kings chapter 19. Hear now the word of God. Ahab, remember, king of Israel, told Jezebel, his wife, all that Elijah had done, and how Elijah had killed all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, so may the gods do to me, and more also, if I do not make your life like the life of one of them by this time tomorrow, like the life of one of those prophets that you put to death, Elijah. Then Elijah was afraid. He got up and fled for his life, and came to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah. He left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a solitary broom tree. He asked that he might die. It is enough. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my ancestors. Then he lay down under the broom tree and fell asleep. Suddenly, an angel touched him and said to him, get up and eat. He looked, and there at his head was a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. He ate and drank and lay down again. The angel of the Lord came a second time, touched him, and said, get up and eat, otherwise the journey will be too much for you. He got up and ate and drank. Then he went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God. At that place he came to a cave and spent the night there. Then the word of the Lord came to him, saying, what are you doing here, Elijah? Does it seem odd to you that Elijah fears for his life? I mean, given the context, the power of God that this prophet has just witnessed, doesn't it seem odd that he would be so fearful of this threat of Jezebel? I wonder if there are any Monty Python fans among us. Yes, do not be ashamed. Raise your hands. Monty Python, now for something completely different. There was a movie that Monty Python it came out with in this was 1975. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. All right, classic. Man, when I was in college, this dates me, but PBS affiliate used to run this movie during pledge time, and all of us on campus, we'd all be watching this movie. If you're not familiar with it, here's what it is. It's basically a send-up of medieval times. You had the mythical King Arthur, king of the Britons, is seeking the Holy Grail. And along the way, they would meet these horrors that they would have to deal with. One of which was the killer rabbit. Yeah, this was no ordinary rabbit. I was going to show a clip, but there's some perhaps objectionable language in there. The killer rabbit, we have a there he is. It's no ordinary rabbit. It's actually a very rare species, the rabbit of Cabernog. It's the most foul, cruel, and bad-tempered rodent you've ever set eyes on. He's got a vicious streak a mile wide. It's a killer. A rabbit. So they all carefully move closer to the rabbit. And then the rabbit attacks. And indeed, it is a killer rabbit. So, this is my favorite scene in the movie. King Arthur shouts, "Run away! Run away!" And they all turn and they run away. Run away! Run away! This is what Elijah does. You know, and on the face of it, you would think Jezebel, what kind of threat could she be? But as it turns out, she is indeed very deadly, because she has put to death numerous prophets of the God of Israel. Run away, Elijah's action. So now God is asking him, what are you doing here, Elijah? Verse 10. What are you doing here, Elijah? Elijah answered, I've been very zealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the Israelites have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. I alone am left, and they are seeking my life to take it away. Elijah, he is frightened. And as we read on in the text, we'll realize that God does not coddle Elijah, though God does hear Elijah out. And then God gives Elijah marching orders. We continue on at verse 11. The Lord said, Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. Now there was a great wind, so strong that it was splitting mountains and breaking rocks in pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a sound of sheer silence. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. Then there came a voice to him that said, What are you doing here, Elijah? He answered, I have been very zealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the Israelites have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. I alone am left. They are seeking my life to take it away. Then the Lord said to him, Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus. When you arrive, you shall anoint Hazael as king over Aram. Also you shall anoint Jehu, son of Nimshi, as king over Israel. And you shall anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat of Abel-Meholah, as prophet in your place. Whoever escapes from the sword of Hazael, Jehu shall kill. And whoever escapes from the sword of Jehu, Elisha shall kill. Yet I will leave 7,000 in Israel, all the knees that have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him. Elijah, you are not alone. This is the word that comes to Elijah. And then God gives Elijah work to do. What should we do when we feel discouraged or threatened or fearful? There are things that God wants us to do, that God calls us to do, that are difficult for us. They are hard, and they are sometimes frightening to us. Jesus says in Luke chapter 9, 32, verse 32, we put it up here on the screens, as if by yes, if any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. This verse, the cross is an instrument of execution. So it's like we're being invited to pick up our cross. In a sense, we're invited to die to ourselves, our wants, our druthers, what we'd rather do, and take them all up and follow Christ. Well, some of these things very much agree with us, and we are happy to do them. They're very joyful, but there are other things that are just challenging. And this is part of what it is to be a follower of Christ. And it's true for all Christians, no exceptions. Some point in our lives, probably several times, we're going to be challenged to do something that is very scary to us. True for pastors as well. And it can be very tempting to quit on Christ. There was a statistic that was kind of running around the Church Universal, at least in the West. Turns out the statistic is not true. But I remember preaching it in the sermon because everybody thought it was true. So it's kind of like on the internet. Do you realize you cannot trust everything you read on the internet? Yeah, the statistic was that every month 1,500 pastors quit the ministry. Just don't quote this because it's not true. The folks at Lifeway, a Christian publisher, did some research. They sent out to 5,000 people a survey, 5,000 senior pastors, and they asked them, who was serving your church 10 years ago, and what has happened to them? Where are they now? Well, in a good number of those churches, the same person was serving now that was serving 10 years ago. And of course, there were the people who had moved to another church, serving as a pastor in another church. Some had retired, and some had died in the 10 years since. Now, about 3% of that total had left pastoral ministry to do another kind of Christian ministry. And only 2% had left ministry for a vocation that was not related to the church. So actually a very small number of pastors leave the ministry. But this does not mean that we are not tempted to do so. I will tell you, I have had days, and I bet any pastor can tell you this, and perhaps it feels more acute to me because I'm a second career pastor. And I did not leave my first career because I didn't like it. I was a software engineer, and I liked that work. But I felt God calling me to this work. There are days when I'm tempted. So don't mess with me. No, just kidding. The truth is, this is true of all Christians. For the first 10 years of my adult life, I was, like I said, working this job, but I was active in the church. And sometimes I was put in leadership positions in the church. And sometimes I was tempted just to chuck it. I remember there was a time when I was chair of Staff Parish Relations Committee. That is some hard work. If you were on SBRC, you know it. Marty Carmody, are you here this morning? Well, I don't see it right now, but hey, I got your back, man. I'm praying for you. It's hard work. He's ushering for us this morning. It's hard. I was a trustee for a time. That's hard work. Stephen Signs, you're our chair. Are you in this service? Maybe not. Man, that's hard work. Finance, we had John Fedor. He's our chair of finance. I was never chair of finance, but gosh, it can be hard. You'd be tempted to quit those jobs because they do get difficult sometimes. And then, that's just church life. What about life? You know, stuff comes into your life and you're thinking, I don't know. Does God care? I mean, maybe you're wrestling, struggling with your marriage, or you've lost your job, or a health crisis comes, or someone that you love has died, it can be hard to see the big picture when you're in the midst of it all. So how do you hang in there with God? I'm going to give you 3 things that I think would be helpful. We can find examples or counterexamples of each of these in this text. The first of these is this, and it's really common sense. You know, when something big and awful befalls you, or a challenge that just seems overwhelming, step by step. This is the ticket, step by step. In the narrative here, Elijah panics. You know, this messenger comes, 24 hours, you're going to be dead. It's like, you know, he just imagines the worst case scenario, and he turns tail and he runs. I wonder if he'd have stopped and prayed. Always a good very first step. Perhaps it might have played out differently, and he wouldn't have panicked. But you know, if we can figure out one good step, in whatever circumstance, we're in one good step, and take that step, and then reassess. What is a next good step? Prayerfully can work our way through this. We can, by God's grace and the strength of God, we can walk right through this thing, whatever it is. There's this old question. Have you heard this before? How do you eat an elephant? What's the response to that? One bite at a time. One bite at a time. All right. So first thing, step by step. Second, this can be very helpful to us to develop and use a mantra. A mantra is a thing that we say over and over again to ourselves. Came up with a couple examples of these. A man named Steve Callahan, who was adrift in a raft for 76 days, and he just kept repeating to himself the word survival. Survival. Over and over during the ordeal, he'd say things like, concentrate on now, concentrate on survival. That was his mantra. Another man, Yossi Ginsburg, was a hiker who was lost in the Brazilian jungle for 3 weeks. And he repeatedly used the phrase, man of action, to motivate himself. You know, if you're feeling unloved or abandoned, here's one that's a favorite of mine. I am a child of God. This is true of you as it is of me. I am a much-loved child of God. This is a good mantra. Now, you can go negative, and that's what Elijah does. Elijah goes negative on the mantra deal. His mantra is focused on death. Remember, he says, it is enough now, O Lord. Take away my life, for I am no better than my ancestors. And when he's confronted twice in this cave, what are you doing here, Elijah? He offers the same response each time. He says, I alone am left, and they are seeking my life to take it away. This prophet is burned out, bummed out, and he wants out.